We are now talking to 4 for 4 football sports betting manager, Connor Allen. What's going on, Connor?
Not much. How you guys doing tonight? Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Absolutely, man. We really appreciate you joining us. I know you're a very busy man as, the NFL is around the corner. We're talking about OTAs soon. Free agency is over. The draft's over. So before we get into how were you and your family with this whole COVID situation? You guys good?
Oh, yeah. Pretty solid. So I actually went to the NFL draft myself in Vegas, and I had dodged COVID up until then, but I went to the Gronk beach party and picked up COVID there. So, obviously we ended up okay. I came on the other side, but yeah, like Gronk was there. Kelsey was dancing on stage with him. Debo was there. Russ Westbrook was all there. It was pretty cool to see them all just like hanging out, partying. And obviously the draft atmosphere was great as well. But yeah, that's, in a nutshell, basically my COVID story. Dodged it until then, let loose a little bit and wound up okay.
We all knew that Gronk was a big virus. So there you go. You probably got it from him. Anyways, why don't we get into it? How was the draft? What really stood out to you in the draft, especially in the first round?
Yeah, I guess some of the biggest points here were how many wide receivers went early. I think we saw 5 wide receivers go in the first 15, 16 picks there. We saw Hollywood Brown get traded to the Cardinals. We saw A.J. Brown get traded to the Eagles. And beyond that, I think at the top of the board there, we saw Travon Walker end up going number 1, whereas Aiden Hutchinson was the pretty consensus number 1 up until 2 weeks before the draft. Thankfully, I was able to get down a good amount of money on Walker number 1. Prior, heard some rumors about him potentially going number 1. Then the media confirmed it, a couple days later. So I was able to get some money down on that, as well as a bunch of other stuff there. So it's a profitable draft. Overall, not super exciting because the quarterback talent wasn't there. There wasn't that many skill players that went in the first round outside of wide receivers. Obviously,
why is that? Backs. Why is it? If a quarterback, if there's no big quarterback involved in the first round, it's not a good draft. Everybody says, "Oh, it's not a good draft," and people are trading away picks and moving players in the first round. They always say that, and usually when they say that, those drafts are already you find really, really good players, all pros and future Hall of Famers. I remember the last time they said that, I think, Speedy, when you started, what was it? It was 2017.
Was my first year here.
So I think it was 2018 they said the draft was going to be a terrible draft.
No, it was 19, the year after the Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, that draft.
Right, and that draft was a pretty good draft. They found players in the second and fourth and even fifth round. And in the first round, there were a couple of pretty good players in the first round as well. So I don't believe every single time, and even before Speedy was here, I think it was 2011 or 2012.
13 was a horrible draft, and then I think 2016 was the other one that people were questioning.
Because of the quarterback, and then remember the quarterback class with Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. Besides Lamar and obviously Josh Allen, that draft was not a loaded draft when it came to quarterbacks. When they said that was going to be one of the best quarterback classes since 2004, when the Eli Manning draft, where Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and then obviously Ben Roethlisberger, and then obviously what's his name again? Tony Romo, who wasn't drafted, undrafted player. So that was a pretty good draft with quarterbacks. That was the last great one for Hall of Famers. So I don't understand that. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
No. I totally agree, and I think that the reason people say that it's kind of like a media spun narrative because it's a quarterback league. Quarterbacks sell tickets. Obviously quarterbacks drive wins. So if you don't have a player that is gonna kind of like alter your franchise like immediately, I think that everyone says, oh, it's not a good draft. Where like you're saying, there's a ton of good offensive linemen in this draft. There was a ton of good defensive players early on, and there was a lot of good wide receivers taken in the first round. So I think that those guys will all make a difference, but to their point, like none of those guys are probably going to like alter a franchise entirely. And that's, I think, probably the biggest difference. But I think this next draft we should see a couple good quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Will Levy, I think, from Kentucky potentially. Yeah. Levis. Yeah. So I don't get too into the prospects, honestly, this early. I watch a little bit of college football here and there, but from my understanding, there should be at least 3 to 4 quarterbacks who should go in the first round that will be better than, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, this class.
Before I get to my question, I wanted to ask you mentioned Deebo Samuel. You were at a party. Were you at that party where there was a band that was saying, stay in San Francisco, and Deebo was actually there and they didn't know it? Were you at that party?
It was one of my friends did hold up a sign that said like "Pay Debo the bag," like those little phone things.
Yes.
And he was like nodding. And was like, "Yeah, it wasn't the one you're talking about. I know where they were like he was at that party.
Yeah.
And like he got pissed or something like that. We
Yeah.
weren't at that party, but it was something similar where he did have like a pretty clear reaction of nodding his head, being like, "Yeah, like they better pay me."
Gotcha. So my question is, you being a betting guy, I know that they make a lot of season bets with awards, Rookie of the Year, MVP, stuff like that. So your experience at the draft and also the locations that they ended up being drafted to with those wide receivers in particular, is there any one that you like the landing spot in the most where you would favor them in a potential like a Rookie of the Year type bet or a Pro Bowl type bet?
Yeah, I mean, so the Rookie of the Year stuff is pretty tough. So it's not like a full quarterback award, if that makes sense. So Kenny Pickett right now is the favorite, obviously the one that's slated to get the most time. But we actually had a Steelers beat writer on, and he said that Mitch Trubisky is like, pretty much guaranteed to start week 1, barring a terrible training camp. So he said that Kenny Pickett is actually going to be competing for the number 2 job with Mason Rudolph. And I find that kind of laughable, but he had a lot of conviction in it. From what he had seen, that was what is going to happen. So I'm not betting on Kenny Pickett to be a Rookie of the Year. I think that there's some more value down the board. Guys like a guy like Treylon Burks could come and have big impact. He's having like asthma, conditioning issues. I don't know, something weird going on in minicamp. Again, I think that this would be something to watch in training camp. You can probably make better bets then because there's just so much fluctuation with these wide receivers about what's going on and what we're hearing. I haven't made anything too big on that market, but there are some interesting long shots on the board with like running backs and as well as, like if you want to take a quarterback like Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder, if you think either of them see time, I mean, they're like 16, 20 to 1, in that range. So if you think they somehow win see time, then that's worth a stab.
We are talking to 4 for 4 football sports betting manager Connor Allen. Connor, the New York Jets, a lot of people thought won this year's draft. I mean, they made a lot of moves. You saw what they did. They got a 2nd and a 4 for Sam Darnold. Now Baker Mayfield goes over there to Carolina. He might lose his job, and Sam Darnold could be on a scrap heap before you even know it. So it's crazy to say that. So he got a 2 and a 4, and they only got a 5th for Baker, which is crazy. So what did you think about the Jets when it came to the defensive player in Sauce Gardner? Then they brought in Garrett Wilson, and then they moved up to get Jermaine Johnson. What were your thoughts when they made all those moves in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no denying that they made an impact on this draft. They had a good draft, but at the same time, and I think that the entire team pretty much rests on Zach Wilson and him getting better, because you can have all the pieces you want. If Zach Wilson doesn't take a step up from last season, I mean, it doesn't matter because he was downright bad in most scenarios. And obviously, they improved the offensive line throughout the offseason. They obviously had brought in Garrett Wilson. They have Elijah Moore. So they have weapons. They have all the pieces in place. And I expect him to be a little bit better. But really, at the end of the day, I think that his progression as a passer and kind of being able to play within the system that they have is kind of the biggest difference. We saw Mike White come in last year and outplay him, just by taking the dump off.
Well, he was a rookie too.
Right. Of course. I don't want to be too harsh, but at the same time, this is a big year. Obviously, we're not going to call him a bust after this year, but if he doesn't play well, his leash is very, very short.
If he doesn't play well this year, the Jets are looking for a new quarterback in next year's draft. Right. I absolutely believe that. There's no way that Joe Douglas is going to be sitting as the GM, and trust me, the Jets are the first team in NFL history to have 2 top 3 picks in less than 3 years. Nobody's ever done that before. And the Jets, could you imagine all the teams, Jacksonville, the Browns, all the bad teams, the Jets are the first team in NFL history to draft 2 top 3 quarterbacks, top 3 picks, and give up on one of them in less than 3 years. It's crazy. It really is. So Zach Wilson is, and yes, he's involved with the tabloids right now because he was possibly sleeping with his mom's best friend. Who cares?
Whatever.
It doesn't matter. I know everybody in the press want to bring it up, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in the show because I've got a lot to say about that. It's so stupid, but again, if anything, you would give him props. A young man sleeping with a 40-year-old woman. He should be happy. And he's not going to be taking any crap from his ex-girlfriend anymore because she's hanging out and dating his roommates. It's the Jets.
I thought that was hilarious.
The Jets.
Obviously, it kind of sucks that he was cheating on her, but at the end of the day, it does not impact his on-field performance 0%.
It's the Jets. I'm a Jet fan, so I know all about the Jets. And if there's anything to be with the New York Jets, with the Rex Ryan era and the clown eras that we've seen, and I'm a Jet fan, this would be one of those funny, events that you could just laugh at and just hope that's the only thing that's going to happen this year that's clown-like. As everybody knows, we are talking to 4 for 4 football sports betting manager Connor Allen.
So I want to go back to the wide receivers because a lot of them got traded some of them got traded this offseason. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and also A.J. Brown, like you were mentioning, and then others are looking for new contracts. So do you see them being like the second priority position now, the way they're getting paid and the way they're getting leverage now in terms of like power to force their way out in getting traded?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I also think that the trade, with Tyreek Hill is probably going to have a huge impact on the NFL and like kind of his impact on the Dolphins. So if we see him go to Miami and end up crushing, like just truly changing the game for Tua, opening the field up, obviously there's a lot of other factors there as well with the offensive line and new coaching staff. But, if he really goes there and makes a big difference, like, I think that's going to have like an extra impact beyond what we're already seeing with big wide receiver trades, big wide receiver contracts. So yeah, to some extent, like, this is becoming a passing league for most teams who are not like focused on being a hyper efficient rushing attack. It's becoming a passing league, and that's just a natural extension of that, having wideouts who can literally get open whenever, who are faster than everyone else, who are able to change the game.
So, Connor, we look at the NFL going into the season. Everybody over the last couple of years thought the NFC was the more dominant conferences in all of football. Now the transition this year with the quarterbacks getting traded, Russell Wilson's there. Obviously Justin Herbert. You have Burrows, who has an offensive line now. Lamar Jackson's looking for a new contract. I mean, the better quarterbacks are in the AFC. There's no question. Josh Allen. What are your thoughts, the transition this year from the dominant NFC to now the dominant AFC?
Yeah, I think from multiple perspectives here, being in the AFC is just like a massive disadvantage for any team. I mean, you have a team like the Colts who, from all accounts, has a good roster. They added Yannick Ngakoue, they added Stephon Gilmore, they traded for Matt Ryan, and right now they are, like 7th or 8th highest odds, and they just to win the AFC. So like, and I think that's pretty accordingly. You have the Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Ravens, Bengals all ahead of them, and I think that's about right. Like I like the Colts to potentially win their division, but at the same time, coming out of this like gauntlet AFC is just so much harder. And especially the AFC West, obviously 3 of those teams, 3 of the top 4 are all in the AFC West. That alone is going to be, should be a 2 playoff team division. But outside of that, I mean, I would not want to be in the AFC. Like even middling teams here, Titans and like Dolphins, if they want to take a step forward, I don't even think they have a chance to win the AFC, because like them taking a step forward vaults them into, probably towards the middle of that range even. And even then, they're probably not good enough to win multiple games to even win the AFC.
I don't know why everybody's blowing up the Miami Dolphins. Well, because they got Tyreek Hill. They didn't have a good draft. I really didn't think their draft really stood out. They have Tua, who can't stay healthy, who a lot of people are calling him, left-handed Tebow? Whatever.
He's more accurate than Mahomes, though, according to Tyreek.
I mean, give me a break. I mean, this is Tua's last opportunity. He has weapons now. He has a new coach. You have to learn a new offense. I don't know why anybody's sitting here today and thinking that Miami's going to be that much better than they were last year. I don't care with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill made a big mistake, okay? I understand he wanted to go, and he probably would have been better off with the Jets than going to Miami. I don't know why he would think that he would fit over there in Miami better than he would fit in New York, but by all means, if that's where he wants to go and he wants to play with a quarterback that, quote-unquote, has better accuracy than one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Patrick Mahomes, well, good luck over there, because I think you're going to be sitting there and being very upset and talking on your podcast just like Draymond Green does every single other week, talking crap about other players because he can't talk about his own. So it's just ridiculous.
Draymond 2.0.
He is ridiculous, just like Draymond Green. 2 idiots, okay? They should be on a show together. 2 idiots. That would be the great podcast. 2 idiots.